Welcome to the OLV Daily Reflection for Thursday, June 11th. Today the Catholic Church honors the Apostles St Barnabas. He was a Jew from Cyprus who converted to Christianity, and he was given the title of being an apostle, just like St. Paul, but he was not included as one of the 12 apostles. And since he was closely associated with St. Paul, he introduced Paul to Peter and the other apostles. He served as a mediator between St. Paul, the former persecutor of Christians, and to those who were still suspicious of St. Paul's conversion. And as we heard through the Acts of the Apostles throughout the Easter season, Barnabas played a very important role in planting churches and bringing people to know Jesus Christ. So in honor of St. Barnabas, today's gospel reading comes from the 10th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. And this passage finds Jesus giving the following instructions to his disciples before he sends them on mission. It reads, Jesus said to the 12, "As you go, make this proclamation. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, drive out demons. Without cost you have received, and without cost you are to give. Do not take gold or silver or copper for your belts, no sack for the journey or a second tunic or sandals or a walking stick. The laborer deserves his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, look for a worthy person in it and stay there until you leave. As you enter a house, wish it peace. If the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. If not, let your peace return to you." In this gospel passage in honor of St. Barnabas has a lot for us to process and pray about. My heart and mind this morning was drawn to Jesus' words about radical dependence, on how he was asking his disciples to depend on God for everything while they were on mission. And this radical dependence would be linked to their ability to do amazing things. Because as we heard, Jesus first told them of the amazing healing power that had happened through this mission. And then he tells them, you have to radically depend on God for everything else. So I can imagine some of the disciples thinking the following: if God could heal the sick through us, God would no doubt be able to provide food to eat, a place to sleep, and clothes for our back. Now, this radical dependence on God would probably be something that many of us would push back against in our own lives, because we are raised and influenced by parents, bosses, and other people who have told us several things throughout our lives. Here are some things I've heard throughout my life. Do it yourself, Jake. You have to be responsible for yourself. Jake, don't expect other people to do things for you. You have to create your own opportunities. Jake, be the solution, not the problem. Or again, one of the more challenging pieces of advice I've gotten from people is the following: why were you expecting help, Jake? So this is not an exhaustive list by no means, but I believe it illustrates that our lives, at least in what we say and expect from each other, does not show forth a radical dependence, but the exact opposite: self-reliance, self-autonomy. And I think most of us take great pride in the fact that we can take care of others and others do not have to take care of us. So when we look at this passage today, Jesus is telling his disciples that they need to have radical dependence on God, especially given their mission. And furthermore, they knew that they had to depend on God because there's no way they could accomplish the mission they were asked to do without God's grace. So I think the connection for us is that Jesus is making sure, as he did with the disciples, that each of us remember that we are more dependent on God than what we think. And again, the gospel passage reminds us of that reality. Without cost you have received, without cost you are to give. So again, we can ask ourselves, who gave us our skills and abilities? Who put the right mentors and friends and family in our lives? Who provided the opportunities that many of us got in this life that others did not? So we can still say with absolute certainty that we are radically dependent on God. It's just because of how our lives have unfolded, maybe we've forgotten about that reality, or we take that for granted. So let us not forget the gifts we are given. Let us not forget the blessings we have received. And know that we still, each of us, depend on God for so very much. And yes, our gospel passage for today in honor of St. Barnabas reminds us that at certain times in our life, it's more apparent that we are radically dependent on God. But that never changes. So please know my continued thoughts and prayers for all of you this day. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us.